Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me okay because we've got a multi-camera setup here this evening for a bit of an experiment. I'm sure if things aren't as clear as you think they are, then you'll let me know. Anyway, welcome to another pop-up special. Now, as you can tell by the fact that I've got my face mask on, I'm going to be doing a quick spraying demo tonight, and it's going to be SMS, the Scale Modeler Supply. It's the German Sand Yellow, which is paint number PL130. And essentially, I'm going to be spraying the rest of the breech here for the Flak 55. Now, I've already done some painting today with it, just to get a feel for it. Brilliant paint, and I do like the colour on this. It's a slightly warmer version of the German Sand Yellow, but they came in so many varieties. It's not really an issue. So it's a nice colour, this. So essentially, if I was to be spraying things like camouflage colours or mottle and things, usually I just have the fans going, I'll have a window open, and I don't bother with this. But because we are actually going to be generating a bit more volume of paint, this does become a necessity. My airbrush that I'm using is my Iwata Eclipse, which I've just given it a clean, and I'll just give it another quick wipe over. It's just a bog standard HPCS Iwata Eclipse. Brilliant airbrush, absolutely bomb proof. I'm going to be thinning it a little bit with some Tamiya lacquer thinner, which is the retarder type, but only a bit, because these don't require that much thinning really, but I always just like to have a little bit just to be on the safe side. So without further ado, I've got my gloves on. Let's mask up. And let's get to the workbench camera. Ping! There we go. Of course, it might help if I turn the microphone on to the workbench. Oops a daisy. Okay, audio all clear and everything. Light is pointing at the camera. We tilt it away. Now, I'm afraid the reason why the light's pointing at the camera is because I've got it all set up here. You see. So, anyway, let's spray away. So essentially, I'm just going to add. I've already got a little bit of thinner in there anyway, so I'm just going to probably about a third thinner to 2/3 paint. And now I'm just going to do a little bit of gentle bit of back flushing. We've got the pressure set to just under 2 bar, which is about 25 psi. I'm also going to take that off. And as we can see, that's pretty lovely. More importantly, it sounds correct. It sounds like it's spraying nicely. So we have quite a few nooks and crannies to cover on this. So let's start straight away. Now, what I like about this paint is when it goes down and it sticks immediately. If anybody has used lacquer paints down the years, it flashes off relatively quickly, so you can actually almost put heavier wet edge to edge coats on it. But I tend to just apply everything in thin, even coats to start off with. You'll also notice that I keep the stream continuous, if you pardon the expression, because I see videos of people airbrushing. I know airbrushing is a very personal
It's a very personal experience, and people have their own kind of particular habits and techniques. Again, a little bit of flecking on that for some reason. The paint's quite thin, but I'm just going to keep an eye on that. I just need to just give the nozzle a quick clean. Well, I've seen people doing airbrushing, and they do this. They go, well, there we go. That was a nice big blobby. But they do this. It's just like, get the colour down. Come on, let's not mess around. Let's just get the colour on there. So and this just sprays absolutely amazingly. In fact, when I was doing some spraying earlier on, I was on the underside of the base to this, because it's a hidden area. I decided to do almost like a destruction test to see how far I could push this paint before it really would start kind of pooling up and running. And I tell you what, you have to be spectacularly ham-fisted to do that. It is, oops, Daisy, it is quite a forgiving paint. We have quite a few areas on this set to cover. Yeah, I'm really a big fan of these paints at the moment. A couple of the colours are a little bit, how can I say, they're not quite what I would choose to use. The dark earth in particular, I'm going to have a test with it to see how I can desaturate it and just probably add some grey to it or something. That's a very subjective thing. I have very fixed views on what dark earth should look like and the contrast between dark earth and dark green. And there are very few paints out there that actually kind of match my expectations, I think is the best way of putting it. But I'd almost rather have a paint that sprays very well, which I can then, fine tune the actual colour to, rather than have one which is a spot on colour, but it's an absolute pain in the derriere to actually spray as well. So, but as you can see, this goes on very, 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 very quickly. And you can put kind of wet to wet edges on it. So you can also see this is a nightmare to try and get the paint into places, because you've got all these delicate bits that are sticking out here, and it's this is a very good kit. But I tell you, a number of times that I've had it on the workbench here, and I only have to look at it at a funny angle and things start falling off of it again. And I think my assessment of this 1602 kit so far has been, it's a very good kit, but it's not one for beginners. There are a couple of areas where you've got to really fathom out some, not fit issues, but just fit hurdles. And coupled with some of the parts are so small and really quite pernickety to kind of get in place that, yeah, I think you want a bit more, you want a few more kits under your belt before you tackle this. And of course that photo etched brake muzzle rather, which is fun to anneal and then fold into place. Let's just try and get it back onto camera again. So as you can see from that standing start, and we're putting this over quite a dark primer colour. I mean, as I say, this is to me a red primer straight out the spray can. You can see how well this is going down here. I'm getting some flecking for some reason. I don't know why. The paint is well thinned. I'll keep an eye on that. I've checked the nozzle and the nozzle's clear. I know Ivan was talking about his paints because he's been using them over the weekend. And he says something about the smell. To be honest with you, the smell doesn't bother me. Then again, I am wearing a mask, so. You can see how quickly isn't that fantastic? Look at it. It just really takes no prisoners, this paint. And were I to be using a water-based, purely water-based acrylic like Vallejo, I would have to be working so much slower because you have to wait for the paint to get a foothold on the surface before you can start being a little bit more heavy-handed. And water-based acrylics, purely water-based acrylics, do need that little bit of extra time to grab before you can start putting heavier coats on. Whereas this is fabulous paint. This is awkward to hold, don't you? So yeah, look how quickly we've got that colour on there. Now I'm going to just, you see, you think, oh, isn't that all wet? Aren't you going to mark the surface? No, honestly, that's pretty much touch dry at the moment. But we do need to get paint into some areas here, so I am just going to. Nope, just make sure I've actually got some on there. Now, when I saw this paint in the bottle, my one concern was it looked a little bit too saturated. It almost reminded me of kind of the old, some of the Humbrol, kind of, it's either 93 or 95, I don't know what the colour is, but it's a very kind of deep, rich sand colour. Whereas to my mind, German dark yellow should be a yellow, but with a slightly kind of greyish, olivey tint. It's hard to describe. But once I actually started putting this on the model, and bearing in mind I'm putting it on a red primer base as well, the actual colour saturation was quite nice. It's a little bit more vivid than one of Tamiya's German dark yellows, but not objectionably so, because as I say, the colour there were certain variances in the colour. Let's get it back on camera. Just trying to get paint into every corner that I can. I'm going to try and get some into those ammo trays now. Oops. As you can see, we've got that area there we now need to. Oh, this model is so tricky to grab hold of sometimes because you are terrified you're going to grab an extremity and then suddenly, bang, bits of plastic are flying off all over the place. Now, this isn't the only coat I'm going to put on this, because this spread I am actually going to be putting a bit of a shading coat on into some of the recesses and things, just to add a little bit of forced drama, but that will then be toned back with an overspray of the base color again. So even though this thing is supposedly factory fresh, which is what the vignette will be showing in the end, you want to have something which is going to give it a little bit of, make it look like an interesting model. And this is the Interesting Modelling Company, so I think that'll do for now, because like I say, we're going to go in with some darker grey into some of these areas, just to get a bit of shadow shading going. But for now, I think that does the trick. So perhaps have a little bit on the front there. To one side, whoops, sticky finger. And then we've got this support rod here, which, oops, I'm going to have to do in two stages. Is do one end, wait for that to dry, then flip it over and do the other end. And then we have the gun barrel. Bear with me a second. Now the gun barrel with that Photo Etch brake muzzle, which I don't know if you can see that, but that was fun to do. Do you know what? I'm actually tempted to leave this. Either leave it in red primer or actually spray it dark grey, as if it's in a dark grey primer. So I might not actually paint that in yellow. I might actually keep that as it is for a bit of interest. So how much paint have we got left in? We've got a little bit left in this, so we may as well blitz the rest of the model just to get the last few remnants out. There we go, we're done now. So the final thing is to get a bit of the Tamiya thinner, drop it into the colour cup just a little bit like so. Let's put the cap back on for a second. Just back flush it through for a second. So we're getting a relatively clear mix going through. And I'm just going to go over this with the thinner, because what that does is it just reactivates the surface for a while, kind of melts the surface, and then everything goes down nice and smooth again. Now, when I say about the differences in the colour, you can see here, this is Tamiya's, it's the LP, it's the LP55, which I like. I think this is a beautifully desaturated German dark yellow. And you can see the differences here. This is paler and a little bit more on the kind of like the grey olivey side. This is a little bit richer, but I'd be happy to use either, to be honest with you. And in fact, I will use both, because you know, I like to have that variety in the models, and I like them to reflect those differences that there were in actual real colours. So, oh, he's broken something off already. What's he broken off? This bit here, wibbly wobbly. There we go. I did tell you this model's delicate. I'm going to have to get the super glue out in a minute. So, there we go. Bing! Goodbye. So, that is essentially... Oh, right, let's tilt that away. Getting a telling off for that. There we go.
that is essentially it. That's the SMS. What is it? Yeah, Scale Modelers supply acrylic lacquers from Australia. Brilliant paint, absolutely fantastic. Really, really impressed with how it performs. So I'm just gonna have a quick read of the comments here. Make sure everybody's behaving themselves. Yes, Jen says you would have to be spectacularly ham-fisted drops model. Well, I've already broken one thing off there tonight, Jen. So, and Hans says, "What is that you're painting?" What I am painting, Hans, is oh, if he can get his hands on it. If you pardon the pun. It's this. It's the it's like an extra from the Dam Busters here now. It's this company, 1602, or 2 minutes past 4 o'clock, or the 2nd of February, the 16th of February, whatever we want to call them. I'm sure they get in contact with us and say, this is what we're actually called. And it's this Flak 55, which it was a late war German project that pretty much, let's get this off at this for a second. It was a late war German project that actually was built and nearly saw the light of day, but not quite. And I've got the headphones on, that's why. What you do on Saturday night? Watch a bloke nearly strangle himself with his equipment. That's better. Yeah, it nearly saw production, but ended up they were actually built. So I am I am thinking of actually creating a little vignette a bit like that, a corner of a factory with one of these there with some bits and pieces around it, packing crates and other odds and ends. And I've got a mini art figure of a British officer with a clipboard, and I think that would make a nice little kind of vignette. Also be a nice, almost like a bit of a nod to Verlinden's Rat House, his famous Rat House diorama. And one of the things was that when I was clearing the sprues off, you do end up with some spare bits and pieces. So there's a spare foot pad there. There are some spare seat bits and pieces. And I thought to myself, well, actually, if I've got some packing crates, I could just paint those up in primer and have them peeking out of packing crates as, you know, other components from the factory, which were never actually put into fruition. Anyway, there we have it. Oops, daisy. Honestly, it's the most delicate model. I've had biplanes that are stronger than this. And as you can see, there's a beautifully satin finish to it as well. But I am a real big fan of these paints at the moment, and I shall certainly be investing in some more. These were very kindly supplied to us by the Frew Model Centre, and you can order them from them. In fact, they are acting as the UK agent for these. Like I say, a couple of reservations about some of the shades, but in terms of actual spraying ability, they're just fantastic. Really, really nice paints. So that's it. That's going to be a very, very short broadcast for tonight because, frankly, I need a cup of tea. As you may have seen on the page this evening, and in fact, I'm just going to go to the page to try and grab it, is that Mr. Pollard and myself have set ourselves our first challenge for the year, and we have decided that we are going to do the Tamiya Panther, the classic Tamiya Panther. Now, some people are going to say, why have you chosen the original Tamiya Panther? Because it's not a fantastically accurate kit. Well, the reason why we've chosen that is because it is actually one of, if not the best-selling Tamiya armor kit of all time. And because it is a slightly less than stellar representation of the Panther, there is a certain amount of fun / hardship in doing something with it to actually make it look $1 million. So there we go. That is coming up in January, and we're actually kicking it off on Monday. That is our Panther Challenge, which yeah, that is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that because, as I say, it's not a brilliant kit. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. It is not a brilliant replica. It is, however, a quite brilliant kit because it is so simple to put together, and it's cheap. So, you know, there are always going to be modelers out there who are just going to want to build something and are not going to be too fussed about the accuracy. And I think the thing I think we're both going to be trying to do with this is try and disguise or throw you off the scent so that you don't go looking at the problem areas of this kit, the lack of detail, the inaccuracies, you name it. It's, you know, it's going to be a bit of fun to see if we can fool people into just having a double take. And, you know, is that the old Tamiya Panther? Anyway, that's the challenge. We're starting that on Monday, the 4th of January, so that we can conclude it for the following Wednesday show on the 13th. So I am really looking forward to that one. That's, you know, what is more atypical of building a model kit than, you know, you say you build an Airfix Spitfire. Building a Tamiya Panther kit, that is pure modeling at its finest. So there we go. There we go. Cut the Mr. Spencer Pollard there says cover it in mud. Yeah, cover it in mud. Trust me. Gonna get the old mud mixture out for this one. So that's it. That's all we're doing for tonight for this particular thing. And it was just to show you A, how easy it is to break a model, and B, how fantastic these SMS paints are. So we will be using, not only will we be using more of them, but because they do some of the colors like some of the Australian colors, I'm actually starting to dig out some projects where I can actually build some Australian aircraft from World War II, where I can actually use foliage green and earth and everything like that. So it's widening your modeling horizons. So on that note, we're going to let that cure for a few hours tonight, and then probably do some of the other shading work. The usual caveats: stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we'll see you all again soon, probably for another pop-up show. So from here, from the workshop for tonight, cheery bye.